The Great Escape, an exciting and gripping account to read. An even greater and exciting account of another great escape is found in Acts chapter 12, the great escape of Peter from prison. Yesterday in our reflections, as we considered Peter's escape from prisoners, how those big iron gates opened for him, in our reflections today we want to think about what happened next. Well, what happened next we read of in Acts chapter 12, verse 11. Peter came to himself and said, "Now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and from everything the Jewish people were anticipating." When this had dawned on him, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, also called Mark, where many people had gathered and were praying. Peter knocked at the outer entrance, and a servant girl named Rhoda came to answer the door. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed she ran back without opening it and exclaimed, "Peter is at the door." "You're out of your mind," they told her. When she kept insisting that it was so, they said, "It must be his angel." But Peter kept on knocking. And when they opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. Peter motioned with his hand for them to be quiet and described how the Lord had brought him out of prison. "Tell James and the brothers about this," he said, and then he left for another place. In the morning there was no small commotion among the soldiers as to what had become of Peter. After Herod had a thorough search made for him and did not find him, he cross-examined the guards and ordered that they be executed. In our reflections today, just for a moment or two, we want to think about the presentation of Peter, because Peter presented himself at the place where the believers were gathered. Peter knew where the church would be praying. Peter knew where to go, and Peter, having got out of jail free, Peter having walked through those large iron gates, wasn't just going to go off by himself and wander in the country and enjoy life. No, Peter wanted to go and tell the others what had been happening. And so Peter knocked at the door. The servant girl, Rhoda, came to the door. In her excitement, she forgot to open the door. And when she went to say it's Peter, they didn't believe her, because I guess the church was praying so earnestly that their mind was preoccupied with praying rather than that the fact someone was knocking at the door. Well, Peter is knocking at the door. And why is Peter knocking at the door? Well, Peter is knocking at the door because of what has happened in Peter's life. Peter has experienced a miraculous escape from prison, and Peter wants to testify about what has happened. Peter wants to testify to the church that has been praying earnestly for him that the chains did not hold him, that when he left prison, that big iron gate swung open for him. Peter wants to come and to testify that the prayers of God's people have actually been answered, that the earnest prayers of the believers, God in his providence has answered. Are we like Peter, even when we pitch up perhaps at someone's house or in a situation? Are we like Peter, up for testifying to the miracle, to what has happened in our lives as a result of the providence of God. You see, we might not have been in a physical prison, but before we were saved, we were in a prison called sin. And Jesus got us out of that prison, got us out of that jail free because of the blood which he shed for us on Calvary. And because of his resurrection, we have that hope, that assurance in Jesus Christ. And Peter was keen, Peter was excited, Peter couldn't wait to tell others what God had done for him in getting him out of prison. Are we as enthusiastic as Peter was in being willing to share with others what God has done for us? You know, I think the church were praying earnestly for Peter, but they didn't believe their prayers would be answered. Well, God answers prayer, and when Peter knocked at the door, they were still praying, but I'm sure their prayers very quickly would have turned to prayers of joy and thanksgiving because of what God had done. You know, God here got the last laugh, so to speak, because we read in the passage that after a thorough search for Peter, Peter had gone, Peter had undertaken his great escape. The soldiers couldn't find him, and so it was Herod's decision that these soldiers would be executed. God had been faithful to Peter. God had provided for people. God had answered the prayers of God's people. And Peter now is knocking at the door, keen and desperate and excited to tell of what God has done in his life. Are we keen, excited, and desperate to tell others, like Peter, of what God has done in our life? May it be so for his glory.